The ICG is a community of independent market researchers who collaborate, share knowledge and experience to deliver value to fellow members and to clients. If you're an independent researcher and want to connect with over 400 like-minded people, gain access to our knowledge base, get inspiration, support and advice from other members, then why don't you join us? Either visit our website, theicg.co.uk/join, or email us at membership@theicg.co.uk. If you're a client company and want to connect with the largest resource of expert independent researchers in the world, with proven expertise across all markets, categories and techniques, then why don't you contact us? Either visit our website, theicg.co.uk/connect, or email us, connect@theicg.co.uk. If you're a supplier and want to promote yourself to over 400 buyers of research services, then why don't you contact us? Either visit our website, theicg.co.uk/advertise, or email us at admin@theicg.co.uk. The ICG, Expert Independent Researchers.
Today's webinar is kindly sponsored by GDCC. GDCC is the Global Data Collection Company, specialist in international CATI and online fieldwork. This year, celebrating our 20th anniversary. GDCC supports only market research studies from our 4 fully owned facilities in the UK, Netherlands, Turkey and Hong Kong. 300 CATI stations supporting B2B and consumer projects in over 35 languages. Services provided internally for professional translation, questionnaire programming, sample list purchase coding through to data delivery and tables. Types of studies regularly conducted include B2B surveys for IT, automotive, financial and general sectors, senior business decision makers and stakeholders, customer satisfaction surveys with businesses and consumers, general population polling for national representative polls. GDC is a company partner of the Market Research Society, a corporate member of SMR and certified to ISO 27001 for information security and ISO 22252 for market research processes. For further information on GDCC's services, quotation requests or general discussions on feasibility, please contact Simon Glanville, simon.glanville@gdcc.com, and make sure that you mention the ICG for favourable pricing. Or visit gdcc.com for general information on GDCC's market research data collection services.
Thanks for that lovely introduction, Arthur. Good morning to everyone who's on this webinar. It's great to have you with us. So, do you know how many new businesses are started up in the UK every year? Well, the last time I checked, it was about 500,000. Now, sadly, the vast majority of those businesses don't actually live to see their first birthdays. Even fewer of them make it to 5 years, and only about 4% make it to 10 years. Now, regardless of how long you've been in business, I'm guessing that you're on this webinar because you'd like to build a business that can last as long as you want it to and bring you the right sort of clients. So let's just make sure I can get to my next slide. Oh, the slide's working. There we go. So hello, I'm Chantal Cornelius, and as Arthur said, I've been running my marketing company, Appletree, for nearly 17 years. In 2011, I published my first book about marketing for small businesses, and then I wrote another one about how to survive your first 10 years in business. I started out like many consultants with work coming in gradually, but in a typical feast and famine way. Now, this is where you go through peaks and troughs of work and money and energy and enthusiasm. It's really hard work. You never really know where the next job's coming from and where the money's coming from, and it's kind of exhausting. But after my feast and famine start, things started to get better because I had a plan for my marketing, and I had a really good system that allowed me to keep in touch with my best clients and to build strong relationships with them. I knew how to target my marketing to make it more effective, and I had a process that allowed me to keep track of my sales leads and not let any of them slip through the net. So my customer relationship management system, that's what we also talk about that's what we mean when we say CRM, but it also means database. And this is actually at the heart of my business. My business would not have survived as long as it has without this system, without this database. So So today I'm going to be sharing with you the benefits and the importance of having some sort of CRM, some sort of database, and how it can help you build your business. I'm going to be giving you lots to think about, so take lots of notes and make a note of any questions that you have. Now, I'm actually going to go through 3 sections this morning. I'm going to take a quick break at the end of each one to give you a chance to ask questions about what we've just covered. And I'll give you a warning when we're going to do that. So at any point, pop a question into the chat box and we will get through as many as we can during the session. So what are we going to cover today? We're going to look at how to keep in touch with your clients by using a database or a CRM. We're going to look at how you can use a database for targeted marketing to make your marketing much more effective. And we're also going to look at how you can use a database to keep track of your sales leads and turn more of them into clients. So let's get going. The first really important reason for having some sort of database is it's about keeping in touch with your clients, your contacts, and your prospects. Now, one of my marketing mantras is that ad hoc marketing does not work. And what I mean by this is ad hoc marketing would be sending out one email newsletter and then waiting for people to contact you. It would be going to one networking meeting, meeting a few people, going back to the office and sitting there expecting the phone to ring. It would be sending out, and I see this quite a lot, sending out one direct mail shot piece and then expecting people to phone you. Ad hoc marketing doesn't work because you have to drip feed people with your marketing message. When you are a consultant, and I'm guessing that most of you on the call today are consultant types, you're selling services. When you're selling a service, people buy you, your expertise and your time, and you have to build up a relationship with them, which means that just sending out one piece of marketing material is not going to generate enough trust. Going to one networking meeting, having a 3-minute conversation with somebody is not going to leave them thinking, yeah, okay, I like and trust this person, I'm going to pay them thousands of pounds to do some work. Sometimes it does if you're really lucky, but mostly it takes a lot more. So you've got to keep drip feeding. And this is where a database comes in handy because you need to keep track of who you sent what to. So my database shows me things like who I sent a Christmas card to last year. I'll talk more about Christmas cards later, I'm a big fan. It shows me when I contacted somebody and what I sent them. I also use an email newsletter and we use MailChimp for that, so it's not actually integrated into my database, but it's still part of our CRM in that it will show me who I sent the newsletter to, which issues they've got, which issues they've read and opened. So we can track how many people are interested in what sort of areas. So having a database, a CRM, means that you can keep doing regular marketing and record what you've been sending and to who. The second part of keeping in touch is knowing who your best clients are. Now, the way we do things here is we actually grade our clients A to D, and A stands for absolutely fabulous, B is bloomin' marvellous, C is could do better, and D is don't touch with a barge pole. So we actually don't have any D grade clients anymore because they're people who they're way down the list on ideal clients. They're difficult to work with, they didn't like what we did, they paid late, all sorts of different reasons. So they're the ones that we don't chase after. We don't send them anything, we take them off our Christmas card list. If they come back and say, could you help us with our marketing? The answer is no, I'm sorry, we can't. We don't want to work with you guys anymore. Now that might sound harsh, but if you're going to do effective marketing for your business, you need to know who your best clients are. Our A and B grade clients, our A grade clients are treated like royalty. We will do anything for them. We will bend over backwards for these guys because they are lovely. They're great fun to work with. They really appreciate what we do. And the work we do for them really makes a difference to their business. So, like I said, we'll do anything for them. Whatever it is they want, pretty much we'll do it. And you need to know who your ideal clients are and who your top grade clients are so that you can treat them like royalty if you need to. So our A grade clients we actually list these in the database. So we have a little drop-down area where we can say what grading the clients are. And it means that when we're looking at who to send a Christmas card to, or who to send a birthday card or a birthday present to, if they're A-grade clients, they get all of that. We also use the database to look at the A-grade clients to see when we last had a meeting with them, and we make sure that we meet with them on a regular basis. Some of our clients, our A-grades, want to meet every 2 months, some want to meet every 3 months. Whatever it is, we do that for them, and we use the database to make sure that we are looking after them. The C-grade clients, the could do better, they're the ones that they might get a Christmas card, they probably get our email newsletter, which goes out once a month, but we don't do much more to them, so we don't chase after them and try to get work out of them because they're C grades, because we know that there isn't much potential for more work. So if a C grade client comes back to us and says, could you do a bit of marketing? The answer is probably, yeah, okay, well, let's have a look and see what you need. But like I said, we don't chase after them. When you run your own business, it's really important to grade your clients and then spend your time looking after your A's and B's. Don't go chasing after the C's and D's. They won't pay you on time, they won't pay you enough, whereas the A-grade clients, the A's and B's, will love what you do for them and they will recommend you to other people. So, little task for you, if you haven't already done it, go away and grade your clients. You can do them A to D, you can do them A to Z, you can do them high, medium, low, doesn't matter, it's really up to you, but find some way of grading your clients so that you know who your best ones are. And the third aspect of keeping in touch is knowing that it's easier to sell to your existing clients than it is to sell to new clients. And I want to show you this diagram here. So when we're helping people with their marketing, we talk to them about the clients that they have, whether they're existing clients or new clients, and the services that they provide, and whether they're existing tried and tested client services or whether they're looking at new ones. The bottom left-hand corner is where you need to focus from the start, because it's about promoting your existing services to your existing clients. It's about building that loyal fan base of clients who will keep coming back to you on a regular basis. And it's about marketing to them by offering them more of what you already do. So if, for instance, you've done a market research project for a client and you did it a year ago, it's probably time to go back to them and ask if they need an update, if they need you to do another project for them. The other example I use is with coaches and consultants. So if you're providing an hour's consultancy service to a client, go back and offer them 2 hours a month rather than an hour a month. So it's what you're already doing, but offer them more of it. And it's one area of marketing that an awful lot of businesses forget about. They think that they have to rush off and just focus on finding new clients or creating new services to sell to existing clients or new clients. Yes, you do need to do that. You need to keep looking for new clients. You need to upgrade your services every now and then. But far too many businesses forget about their existing customers. They forget to go back to them and ask what else they can do to help them. And that's where having a database is vital. So whatever database system you use, you need to be able to differentiate between customers and prospects. Our system, actually, we can split people out between current clients, prospects, and former clients. So the current clients are the ones that we speak to on a regular basis to find out what else they need from us, what else we can do to help them. The former clients, we talk to them as well. Every now and then we'll go through the list and look at who we haven't spoken to in a while and see what they need. But that's one of the big reasons for having a database, is so that you can keep in touch with your existing clients and sell more to them. It's much harder and more expensive to sell to new clients, and strategy 4 is the one that I usually recommend people avoid as much as they can, because if you're trying to promote a brand new service that nobody's used before and you're promoting it to customers who've never heard of you, it's a really expensive, tough way of marketing. So work on strategy 1 first. So that's all about keeping in touch. Quick break, chance for you to ask any questions that you might have about keeping in touch, anything I've talked about so far. Hopefully on the side of your screens you can see a questions or a chat box. If you pop your questions in there, type them in there, then I will be able to see them. And so go ahead and do that. While you're doing that, somebody, I think this is Chrissy, has already said, what's the 4-to-1 rule? Good question. Not often asked that. The 4-to-1 rule is about writing marketing. By the way, this has nothing to do with databases, but I'm going to answer it anyway because Chrissy's asked. So the 4-to-1 rule is when you're writing marketing content, every time you write the word me, us, our, we, so you're talking about yourself, you need to write the word you or your 4 times. So what often happens if you're writing a piece of marketing material, you'll say, we do this and we do that and we're great and we're wonderful and we do this and this is how we help clients. So go through and count up the number of times you've used words like we, us, our, and then you need to write the words like you and your 4 times for each one. It actually means that you need to take out a lot of we and put in more you. So you're putting the focus onto the client, onto who or the potential client. That's 4-to-1 rule. Okay, Martin has asked, what is a good database package to use? I knew this question would come up, and it's not something that I can actually answer on this webinar because there are hundreds of them. So I use Microsoft Access, and most people laugh when I tell them this because it's ancient and it came with my oldest computer and we've kept using it. I actually built an Access database about 20 years ago in my very first marketing job, and I've used it ever since. I really like it. It doesn't integrate with anything else. I mentioned earlier it doesn't integrate with MailChimp. I haven't found a way of integrating with anything, but I like it because I'm used to it. So the best thing to do when you're looking for a database system to use is go out and do a spot of research online. There are hundreds of them. The majority of them these days are online services that you can subscribe to. So look at the cost of what you can get. It's probably worth paying for a system, an online one, because they are more likely to integrate with things like MailChimp or the back end of your website. If you want something bespoke, go and find a database developer and they will build it for you. If you're just starting out, the simplest thing to do is start building an Excel spreadsheet. We've recently started working with a new client who has no database system whatsoever. He just has a pile, or he had a pile of business cards on his desk. So we've now got those business cards. We're typing them up, typing all the details and scanning some of them into a spreadsheet that we can use to start building his database. And a lot of those details will be going into his newsletter system. So start with something simple. Just make sure that you're collecting all of the data, whether you've got business cards or you've got LinkedIn contacts or you've got people stored in your email system. Start bringing them all together into one place. The other reason that I can't really answer the question any more fully than that, Martin, is because some people use PCs and some people use Macs, and there's a big difference in the databases that you can use between the two. So, any more questions? Do we have any more questions about databases? Nothing at the moment. Okay. So, if you do have another question, let me just check the chat. No, that's fine. Yeah, pop your questions into the box anytime anything comes up, and we'll move on to the next section. So the next reason for using a database is targeted marketing. And the first point of this is, as it says there, scattergun marketing does not work. So too often I see companies who try to promote everything they do to everyone. And people will say, oh, I can work with anyone with a pulse and a credit card. That's not actually true. I tried it in the early days of my business, and it really doesn't work. An example that I've found recently is I recently received a leaflet delivered by the Royal Mail So it had been paid to be delivered by the company sending it out. And the leaflet was about retiring and selling my house. So it was about, do you want to downsize? Is it time that you downsize now that your children have left home and you need a smaller house? I'm nowhere near retirement age and I don't even have kids. So their marketing was completely inappropriate for me. What I think they've probably done is bought a postcode area and said to Royal Mail, okay, just send this leaflet out to everybody in this postcode. So they've assumed that everybody in my postcode, which is a road that's about a mile long, they've assumed that we all have got children who have left home and that we all live in huge houses and we need to downsize because we're reaching retirement age. That is scattergun marketing. And what they're doing is they're just blasting out thousands of these leaflets in the hope that one person will go, oh yes, I think I need to retire. I think I need to downsize and sell my house through these guys. It's a very, very, very wasteful way of doing marketing. And they're doing it because they don't have a decent database. So what they've done, I think, is they've just gone to the Royal Mail and said, okay, let's cover this postcode. A more appropriate way would be to actually go and buy a list of names and addresses within a certain postcode. Now you can do this and you can select postcodes, but you can also select the age of the people who live in these houses and their occupations and their incomes, because a lot of this data is stored in various places. If you've ever filled in surveys that come through the post that say, if you fill in this survey, tell us all about yourself and you could win £1,000, that's how they're getting the information. It's not always that up to date, but that's a better way of doing it. For those of you on the webinar, I'm guessing that most of you will be working directly with businesses rather than consumers. So a better way of doing targeted marketing would be to look at buying or building a targeted database of companies. And again, you can either build it or you can buy it. We quite often we build databases, so we'll look at types of businesses in a certain area that have a certain number of people or that have a particular named person within the organization. So if you're looking to work with companies who have a marketing department or a marketing research department, you can find a lot of this information. You can either buy lists or you can go onto places like LinkedIn and you can search for them. So it's about building up a database and having a system that keeps records of all of these people rather than going scattergun. You can't promote everything that you do to everyone. You need to make it much more targeted. And people sometimes say to me, but I might be missing out if I'm a bit too specific. The more specific you can get, the more effective your marketing will be. So at Appletree, we only work with coaches, consultants, and trainers. We generally only work with people who have up to 5 people within their business. And we only work with people who are really positive and really want to make a difference with their marketing. This means that if somebody who sells products and widgets comes to us and says, can you do some marketing? The answer is very definitely no, we don't. And we don't actively promote ourselves to any of those. We actively promote our business to groups of consultants or to coaches. I spoke recently at a conference in London for professional speakers. They're a great target market for us. So it's about knowing your specialization and then building a database of people that you can promote your services to without going scattergun. The second element of targeted marketing is about ranking your prospects. Now, we talked about ranking clients. You also need to do the same for your prospects. We do this high, medium, and low. So a high prospect is somebody who's come to us recently, they're very interested, we might have had a meeting or we've had a phone call, they've gone away to think about it. The medium ones are probably saying, yeah, I'm really interested, but maybe not for another 6 months. And the low prospects are ones who probably start by saying, how much does marketing cost? And in that case, we know that they're just comparing us on price and we're never going to win because we're more expensive than most people. So however you do it, you need to rank your prospects, because again, it's about targeting your marketing appropriately to them. So in the run-up to Christmas, so probably about actually October, November time, I will look at our database and see who our high level and medium level prospects are. The high level ones get a Christmas card. The mediums might do. Really depends on how many Christmas cards I'm sending and how many mediums there are. The low ones don't. We don't actually follow up any of the low level prospects because we know it's not worth it. We know that they're never actually going to come and buy from us. But the high and the medium ones, we can target our marketing to them. So the high level ones, I quite often send out a copy of one of my books to a high level marketing prospect. So if they're very interested but they're just wavering a little bit, I'll send them a copy of the book. The mediums, I wouldn't go to that expense, but they will get more in terms of phone calls. I might email them something useful. They certainly get the newsletter. I might also email them an article that I think they'll find useful. So it's about looking at who your prospects are and targeting your marketing so that it's appropriate for each of them. If you didn't rank your prospects, you might end up sending books out to everyone. And I actually had a client recently who published a book and said, oh, I have this list of, I don't know, a couple of hundred prospects. I'm thinking of sending the book out to all of them. I said, don't do it. It will be a complete waste of money. So we actually went through her list and segmented them and looked for who are the high, who are the low, who are the medium, and who are the low. She only sent the book to the high level prospects, and there were only about half a dozen of them. So it saved an awful lot of money. The third element of targeted marketing is about different strategies needing different marketing. And I'm going to show you this diagram again. It's the same one that I showed you a little while ago when we were talking about keeping in touch with clients. But it's about the fact that different strategies need different types of marketing. So you need to segment your clients because your marketing needs to be much more targeted, and your database can help you do this. And you then need to be looking at which strategies you're using to decide what on the different marketing. So let me give you some examples. So strategy 1, promoting existing services to your existing clients. This is about keeping in touch with them. It's about sending out an email newsletter on a regular basis. It's about having phone calls with them. It's about taking prospects out to lunch if they're a high-level prospect. Strategy 2 is about promoting new services to your existing clients. So you might have come up with a new way of carrying out some marketing research for your clients. That's going to need slightly different marketing to the marketing you do if you're just promoting the same service to your existing clients. Strategy 3 is about promoting existing services, so the tried and tested services, to new clients. You can't just send out a newsletter to them because they might not know you yet. So you need to look at different elements of marketing, different aspects of marketing that you can do to approach these people. And that's where things like websites come in handy and recommendations from happy clients. You need to know who your prospects are, what level they are, what level your clients are. You need to have all of this recorded in your database so that you can make your marketing much more targeted by picking the relevant strategy, picking each client or each prospect, deciding which strategy, which box they fit into, and then you'll know which marketing to do for them. So if you were going for the scattergun approach, you would send out a book or a Christmas card or a newsletter to absolutely everybody in your database. That gets expensive and it's not targeted. Whereas if you know that you have some high-level prospects and you know what issues they're struggling with, then you can send out a newsletter or an article, a PDF, a download, something useful that will actually help them to deal with the thing that they're struggling with. Hopefully this all is making sense. So let's take another quickie break and see if there are any more questions. And so yeah, if you have any questions about what we've been through so far, please put them into the questions box. And while you're doing that, I have another one from Martin who says, which route is best for targeting new clients, email or direct email for new contacts, etc.? Okay, good question, Martin. So email or direct mail, it really, well, partly it depends on who you're contacting. If they're people who have never heard from you before, then I would actually go for direct mail. I would go for printing something out. We did this recently for a client where we printed out 2 pages of A4 of nicely written, nicely produced material. He then hand wrote 100 envelopes and hand wrote compliment slips, stuck a stamp on, posted the whole lot out. Didn't do it all in one day, did it over about a week, I think, and he got a phenomenal response from it. The reason for doing this is that in the last few years, so many people have relied on email marketing because it's easy, it's cheap. There's far less cost and time involved than there is in printing and posting something. But as a result, our inboxes are getting full of spam, and our spam filters are getting very good at filtering it out. So if something lands on your desk in a nice envelope with a stamp on, with a handwritten address, you are far more likely to open it and read it than if something pops into your inbox from somebody you don't know. Email marketing does work, and you can buy lists. The problem with buying lists is that usually by the time you've got them, they are massively out of date. One of my clients bought an email list a while ago, and they had a really high bounce rate, so an awful lot of people weren't getting the email that they sent out. When we contacted the company we bought the list from, they said they would expect a kind of a gone away percentage of 25%. So they were selling us a list that they knew 25% of those people, we couldn't get through to them. So I would actually advise you don't buy email lists, but I would advise that if you want to do email marketing, that you build lists. So these days it is possible to go online and look for email addresses. Fewer people are putting their email addresses onto their websites because of all the spam and the robots. If you have your email address on the site, it makes it much easier for people to spam you. So you can phone people. If you really want to send them something by email, phone them up, ask them for their email address, connect with them on LinkedIn, look them up in other places to see if you can find their email address. Now, it takes time, but what will happen is you'll get a far more targeted mailing list, which will actually be much more effective. You'll get a much better hit rate if you're sending emails out to people who have actually said, yes, please send me an email, or here's my email address. Another word of caution with emails is that if you can try and guess at people's email addresses, don't do that. If you can't find somebody's email address and you said, oh, I'm just going to send it to info@ or admin@, there's no guarantee that it's going to get through. Also, if you're using an actual email newsletter system like MailChimp or one of the others, most of them won't actually allow you to add email addresses that don't have a name, so you can't add info@ or admin@. So when we're creating lists, we have to go through and delete all the ones that say info, admin, sales, marketing, whatever. So if you're going to do email, put some time and effort into actually getting the email addresses that for the people that you need. I hope that answers your question, Martin. Any other questions about targeting marketing? It's very quiet out there. Hopefully you're all still listening and awake. Okay. Well, let's move on then. The third thing I want to look at, and the third reason for having a decent database, is that it's all about managing your sales leads. It's far too easy to lose contacts and lose leads. Another little example, I received a leaflet a couple of months ago now from a window and conservatory company who will remain nameless. And they had some quite nice offers, and I'm thinking about having a conservatory built. So I thought, well, I'll contact them. So I went to the link on their website, filled in the form, and it said, fill in the form and somebody will contact you. A couple of days later, somebody phoned and said, hello, you filled in the form, how can we help you? So I said, I'd like a conservatory, please, which surprised me because I put that on the form that I filled in on the website. Okay, says the chap, right, we'll get somebody to phone you to make an appointment to come and visit you. That was the last I heard from them. Until 2 weeks ago, I received the very same leaflet through the post. So these guys have paid Royal Mail to send out thousands of leaflets. They've probably done the whole of my village, and they might even have done the whole of Berkshire, I don't know. So they've paid Royal Mail to send out the first batch. They didn't follow up on the sales leads, and they probably thought, oh, it didn't work, we better send out thousands more. So they've spent double what they should have done, really, on sending out these leaflets. They got it right the next time, because when I got the second leaflet, I thought I'll phone the number on the leaflet rather than going to the website. Phone the number, chap I spoke to said, yep, great, we can book an appointment with you now. So that was much more sorted, but you know, they wasted an awful lot of money. So using a database, it's about managing your sales leads. How many touches does it take to turn a prospect into a client? In the past, they used to say that it took 6 touches before somebody would buy from you. So this might be a case of somebody meeting you at a networking meeting, reading the newsletter that you send them, hearing you speak at an event, whatever the 6 might be. And eventually after 6, they'll go, okay, yeah, I like this person, I trust them, I'm going to ask them to do some work for me. These days, with social media, it can actually take a lot more touches. So it might be a case of somebody sees you at a networking meeting, then they read 16 of your tweets, then they connect with you on LinkedIn, then they see you at another networking meeting, then they read a whole bunch more of your tweets, and they look at some of your Facebook posts, and so it goes on. The fact that these days it can take a lot more touches means that you need to keep track of your prospects. You need to know when you last spoke to somebody and what you said to them and what they said to you. You need to record how you've kept in touch. Have you sent them your newsletter? Have you sent a copy of the book? And as I said earlier, you need to keep doing all of this because ad hoc marketing does not work. So think about the different ways that people can contact you. Think about, because there are so many, the important thing here is that you need to record this on your database. This is one of the reasons that I like my Access database, because for each contact, for each company that I add to the database, I can put on details of when I last spoke to them and what was said. I can look at which newsletters they've had. I can look, the really important bit is what was last said at the last meeting or the last phone call. If you want to follow up with somebody, which you do, obviously, to make your marketing effective, you need to know what happened on the last conversation. There's no point in picking up the phone and saying, well, we spoke a little while ago and I can't quite remember what you said, but let's start again. It's much more effective if you can pick up the phone and say, we spoke 3 weeks ago and you actually asked me to phone you in 3 weeks' time because you were going to be really busy at this exhibition. How did the exhibition go? That's the level of detail that needs to go into your database. And that's the sort of stuff that we record in ours. So if somebody says, phone me back in 3 weeks because I'm going on holiday, I'm going to Sardinia, when I phone them in 3 weeks, they'll be, how was Sardinia? And by the way, I always start with that sort of question rather than the, right, okay, let's talk about this project we were talking about. I always start with the how's business, how was the holiday, is your mother better, sort of questions, you know, because it helps build up the relationship with them. It shows that you were listening to what they said. They don't necessarily know that you've stored all this information in a database. It's just handy to have there. So it takes a lot of touches, and you need to record what those touches are and when and where. You also need to remember who to call next and when. And this is where things slip through the net, and this is what happened with the conservatory company, I think. So the guy phoned me and said, yes, I'll get somebody to phone and make an appointment. Why he couldn't make the appointment then, I don't know. But that information obviously didn't go properly into their database. So nobody phoned me. One of the reasons I really like my Access database is because I can put in a forward contact date. So when I speak to somebody and they say, I'm going on holiday, phone me in 3 weeks' time, a date in 3 weeks' time goes into the database. And every week I can run a report from the database that shows me who I need to contact, who's up for a call. So when you're looking for a database system to use, make sure it can do that. If it can't, Don't touch it with a barge pole, because while recording information about who you spoke to and when is really important, it's even more important to be able to record who you're going to speak to next. You can do this with a spreadsheet. It gets a bit more fiddly. You can't necessarily run reports unless you know how to do pivot tables and filtering, and that way you can do it. So if you are using a database, a spreadsheet, then yes, it is doable. And the third element there is knowing how people heard about you. So one of the secrets of effective marketing is that ad hoc marketing doesn't work. The other one is that you need to find out what marketing works and do more of it. The only way you can do more of it is by measuring it. So you need to find out how somebody first heard about you, and you need to record this in your database. In our database, we have an area for doing this. We have a massive drop-down list that I can select from, and I can add extras in there. And so you need to be adding details in there. Now, quite often people will say, if I say to them, how did you hear about it? Oh, I can't remember. So I kind of push a little bit. Or they might say, no, I think I found you on Twitter. In fact, I had somebody yesterday who emailed me and said, oh, I found you because you wrote a recommendation for this particular company. I've never heard of this particular company, so I'm actually going to go back to it. We've got a call book next week. So I'm going to say to her, look, who is this company? And was it really me, or did you mean somebody else that I was recommending? So you need to pry a little bit. If somebody says, oh, you were recommended to me, the next question is, could you tell me who? It's really important to know who recommended you. And I'll tell you why in a little while. I think I've got another, oh look, pretty picture. So every month you need to look at your database and you need to look at where your business has come from. So when I last did these numbers, I saw that 45% of our current clients had come through networking. So the people I've met at networking meetings. 45% had come through referrals. And then the rest are split through presentations. So this might be when I give a talk at a conference or a networking event. I've got a couple of clients who found us through LinkedIn. I've got a couple who are personal. They're actually friends who said, can you do some marketing for us? And I have one client who came through the ICG. So it's really important to know where your clients have come from so that you can do more networking, more of the right sort of marketing. So I've known for a long time that networking and referrals are our two most successful marketing tactics. So that's what we do more of. I focus on networking. I don't do very much, but I go to very targeted groups where I know I'll meet the right sort of people. And we ask for referrals and we look after our customers. The best way to get referrals is fabulous customer service. That's what will keep people recommending people to you. I need a slurp of coffee. My mouth's going fuzzy. That's better. You can generate more referrals by asking for them. You can do fabulous customer service. You can ask for recommendations on LinkedIn. However you do it, you need to measure your marketing. You need to use your database to be able to pull off these numbers on a regular basis to do more of what works. I said that we get a lot of work through networking, and when I was doing some measurements about 3 or 4 years ago now, I noticed that there was a networking group that I went to. It was about a 40-minute drive, and it was a breakfast meeting, and it was quite early in the morning. The breakfast was fab, the people were lovely, and I never got any business out of it. So I stopped going. I'd been going for about a year, and I decided that was long enough to assess the fact that it wasn't working and I wasn't getting the right sort of business from it. So even within those different aspects, drill down even more. So if there are different presentations that you give, look at the ones that bring in the right sort of business. So that is all about using a database to look after your sales leads. If you have any questions, pop them in the box. And while you're doing that, I'm going to answer another one from Martin, who's making the most of asking questions. Go for it. This is good. So Martin says, should a market research agency have a Twitter and Facebook page stroke account? Oh, that's a very good question. Okay, in my personal opinion, yes, a Twitter account is useful if you are sharing advice with people and building up your reputation as an expert in your field. So if you are sending out tweets that talk about how to do better market research, giving people advice on how to run an online survey, how to find the right sort of people to talk to, what sort of survey size you need, yeah, that's great. And I would go for about probably 2/3 to 3/4 of your tweets need to be purely giving advice. They can also be links to things like newsletters and blogs that you've written, as long as those are giving advice. The other very small percentage of your tweets can be details about what you're doing. So tweets talking about the types of businesses that you work with, or here's a project we worked on recently, to give people an idea of what you do. And a very, very, very small percentage can be salesy. So here's our latest product, here's our book that you can buy, here's the webinar that you can join on to. So Twitter for service businesses, it's never going to bring you a shed load of business. You can see from the slide that's up there, I've never had any new business come directly through Twitter. But what happens is when somebody is recommended to us, they go and look us up online. They go and find our website and they hunt me out on LinkedIn. And they will then go and read some of our tweets and watch our videos and read our newsletters. And people have often said, yeah, you were recommended to us, so I had a look at your website and I really like some of your tweets and this blog was really useful. So that's where having a Twitter account as a market research agency is useful, as long as you're putting out useful information that positions you as an expert. Facebook, on the other hand, okay, this is me sticking my neck on the line. I still don't think that Facebook works for service businesses. At Appletree, we have a Facebook business page because quite a few years ago I had a member of staff here who loved Facebook and said, you've absolutely got to have a page. So I said, okay, great, we'll have one. I update it when I remember about twice a month, and I'll put on details. I think I put on something about this webinar. I'll put up our latest blog or a newsletter. That's all I do on the Facebook page. The other reason for having it is that I use Facebook to comment on business groups. I have a personal page. I rarely put anything on there because I'm not interested in telling people what I had for breakfast. And I kind of use Facebook to keep in touch with friends and family who live abroad. That's quite handy. But I use Facebook more for going and commenting on business groups that I'm a member of. And what I found is the more of these questions, the more of these comments I put up, the more people were looking at my Facebook page, because you can see the number of people that are going and looking. So I thought, well, I better keep it updated on a regular basis. So that's the only reason that we use a Facebook page. If you want one, great, have one. Put some posts up now and then about your blog or your newsletter or some useful advice. Make sure you have a Facebook business page. Don't use your personal page for business. I would keep them really separate. Okay, I have another question here from Jill, who says, I was advised by someone to target people on LinkedIn by attempting to connect with them, even people I had no previous link with. This felt to me rather like unsolicited spam. I wondered what your views were on this approach. Jill, you're absolutely right. It is unsolicited spam. Don't do it unless you have a really genuine reason for contacting somebody. So, for instance, if you specialize in working with a particular type of business in a particular geographic area or something really specific, you can go and look for people on LinkedIn to contact. Send them when you send them a connection request, don't use the standard, I'd like to add you to my LinkedIn profile or whatever it says. Send them a personalized message about why you want to connect with them, what you're interested, how you think you might be able to help them, and do it that way. People can still ignore your requests. They don't have to link in with you. but doing it that way, I think, is much better than sending out the informal message. And I wouldn't do too many. I've heard of clients who've actually been blocked temporarily by LinkedIn by searching and trying to connect with too many people. So just do it on a sort of a limited basis. Another thing that you can do that sometimes works is asking your contacts who they know, who they can introduce you to. That's quite a good one. Okay, another question from Chrissy. Is it worth having a professional LinkedIn account? So I'm guessing, Chrissy, that you're asking about the paid for version. In my opinion, no, you don't need to pay for LinkedIn. There's an awful lot you can do on LinkedIn without paying for it. If you go for the paid option, that is where the reason for doing it, the only reason I can really see for doing it, is because you're trying to contact more people who you don't know, and there are more options for doing that on the paid version. But the standard version, you can still search for loads of people and look for connections and find them. So no, I wouldn't spend any money on it. Okay, blimey, look at the time. This has just whizzed past. So, quick summary. The 2 secrets of marketing. Ad hoc marketing does not work. And do more of what works and less of what doesn't. And to do both of these, you need some sort of database, some sort of CRM. So if you don't have one, start one today. Get those business cards, get those email contacts, and start putting them into some sort of list, some sort of spreadsheet, some sort of database. Get them in there and start building on it and building up, because without a database, you really can't do the best sort of marketing. You really need something. It's, like I said, it's kind of the heart of this business, so you really do need one. Just a quickie here. Arthur said I could do this. The ICG have been very kind in letting me come and talk to you guys about all sorts of marketing. So in return, I wanted to give you a quick offer. So we have something called the Magnetic Marketing course. This is a 9-week course that will take you through the basics of marketing and help you build a marketing plan that shows you what marketing you need to be doing on a weekly basis. Because as I said, ad hoc marketing does not work. It's delivered by email. It's really simple to follow. It's full of really useful advice and ideas. We have a Facebook page that members can go in and talk to each other and ask all sorts of questions. And a special offer for you guys is that it's usually £195, so the price is the same, but if you join, I think by the end of May, you also get a free copy of Magnetic Marketing, the book, which is the first book that I wrote. That website address there, I'll leave that up for a bit, but that's where you can go and get it. It's a password protected page, so this offer is only available to people on this webinar and other ICG members, and you'll need to put in the word expert with a capital E to get the details. And to get onto the page. If you have any questions about it, give me a shout. Now, Arthur actually had to leave us. Arthur Fletcher, who started the webinar off, he had to leave us at about 11:30 to go to a meeting. So he's asked me to just kind of round things off and say, basically, that's the end of the webinar. Thank you very much for joining us. And thank you very much for GDCC for sponsoring the webinar. Arthur's also asked me to tell you about the next webinar, which will be on the 25th of May, where you'll be hearing from Richard Collins at Big Sofa about how you can make video a core part of your qualitative research and not just an add-on. So look out for emails coming out about that and sign up for that webinar. I hope you've enjoyed today's session. Thank you very much for joining us. If you have any questions that you didn't want to ask in the session, anything that you need to ask, get in touch with me. The website address is there. You can find an email. In fact, my email address is Chantal, CHANTAL, @appletreeuk.com. Ping me an email and we'll have a chat and I'll see what I can do to help. Thank you very much for joining us and good luck with your marketing.